Hey guys, Shrowd here, and in this video I will give you a full abilities walkthrough on Shrowd. I will cover all of his abilities, show them to you, explain how they work, and give you advice on how to evade them and deal with them. Please remember to thumbs up this video if you liked it or it helped you. Comment on it if you have something to say or give out feedback. Share it as you see fit, and do not forget to follow me on Twitch and subscribe to my channel for more Dauntless content in the links down below. Shrowd is an umbral behemoth, which means he has a resistance towards umbral weapons. Currently in the game there are two umbral weapons, Shrowd's weapons and the Hunger exotic sword. I do not recommend using these weapons when fighting him. Shrowd has a weakness towards radiant, which means that all weapons from Rezactory will deal more damage to him than any other weapon. Secondly, Shrowd has a debuff which he applies through his corruption pools. This debuff is called Corruption and will deal instant damage as well as apply a damage over time debuff on you. It will also slow your movement speed down. The only way to dispel it is by hitting Shrowd, his Shadow Clone or his Corruption Sphere. His first ability is his melee combo. Shrowd will do 2 close wipes in a target direction followed by a jump spin and finally a slam back on the ground. The hit radius of the close wipes is not big, so you can stay under his legs and evade them, but the jump spin has a very big radius, so I suggest rolling away from him or sprinting away until he finishes the full combo. The other option is to move away and when the spin finishes to start sprinting back towards him. Just be careful not to get hit by the slam when it lands. His second ability is Quo Swipe. This ability is exactly the same as the Quo Swipe of Shrike or Scribe. You can simply roll in any direction to evade it. Also, a safe spot is behind his opposite claw. His third ability is Feather Swipe. When he does this, he pulls his claw and the feathers will grow out on his arm. Afterwards, he'll make a wide swipe, hitting everything in front of him to the side of the arm that is swiping and a little bit behind it. Evading is easy once you get the timing of the swipe. I usually start counting the moment he pulls his claw and I count 1 and 2 and I roll on the 2. There is also a safe spot which is behind him next to the leg of the arm that is going to swipe. I showed you how I rolled after the swipe and it did not hit me because I was near this safe spot. His fourth ability is Slam. Shrowd will slam the ground and propel himself backwards a bit. I find it best to just sprint towards the destination he will land after the slam. The slam itself is easy to evade because you can just move away from him, you can sprint or you can roll away. The ability has enough time to allow you to get to safety. I have tried rolling at the last moment through the slam a couple of times, but getting the timing down is difficult and I find it easier to move and wait for him at his land spot. His fifth ability is Corruption Throw. It is simple, long-range ability he will do when there is a Slayer a long distance away from him. He basically will throw a line of corruption pools towards the target Slayer. You can sprint to a site of your choosing to evade the throw, but even if the pools land on you, they will not immediately deal damage, so you can roll when they are just about to land on you to get out of them. As mentioned earlier in the video, corruption pools will apply the corruption debuff on you when you pass through them. If you missed the explanation, you can click the link below to go back and listen to it. His sixth ability is Flying Slam. The ability has 2 variations, the only difference between the two being the time he spends in the air before slamming down. The shorter one will take around 2 seconds, while the longer one will be roughly 4 seconds of time in the air. I suggest to simply fight him and get the timing of when to evade it. Follow him with your camera to make it easy to time your roll. I roll when I see his legs almost on top of me. The other option you have is to sprint away from him, since he cannot slam a very long distance away from his lift-off position. His seventh ability is Shadow Flight. This ability is very similar to the tornado attack of Shrike and Scribe. The difference is that instead of a tornado, Shrowd will send a shadow clone of himself flying towards you. It is easy to evade it if you have gotten used to evading Shrike and Scribe's flank attacks. If you're not, however, remember that unlike them, this ability will track your player and move the trajectory with him, so you have to roll through it. If you're in a group, I advise you to split up so that the target player can move away, while the rest can go back to dealing damage instead of everyone being forced to evade. His 8 and 9 ability, which I will explain now, will only be used when Shrowd enters his Aether Mode, so have that in mind. His 8th ability is Corruption Sphere. Shrowd will throw a dark sphere out in front of him, which will start pulsating as a countdown. The moment it explodes, it will create a large explosion which will cover the whole fighting area as well as the areas around it. Evading it is not an option, and surviving through the damage is not worth the consumables and the HP loss. The moment he creates the sphere, head to it and start hitting it. Use any special weapon meters or lantern damaging abilities to take it down fast. If you are in a party of 4, 2 people will be enough to take it down. It is not necessary for all 4 people to go for it unless you want to take it down really fast. If he happens to create a sphere while under the effect of his darkness in Enrage phase, then you will have to follow the corruption that is pouring out of your Slayer to find the sphere. It is not hard, since the corruption will face towards the sphere, although you have to see it for yourself once in order to understand it. Destroying corruption sphere is a top priority over anything else. If you have to take a bit of damage from Shrowd, then do so, but make sure you take the sphere down. His 9th and final ability is Shadow Clone. The same as Corruption Sphere, he will only do this ability during his Aether Mode. He will create a smaller shadow version of himself. Upon spawning, the clone will deal damage around it, so do not stay near it. The clone can do the following of Shrowd's abilities: Close Swipe, Slam, both types of Flying Slams, and his melee combo, but it does not have the spin and slam part, instead it does a few extra close swipes. You have to be very careful when he creates the clone. I suggest in group fights to split them both apart so they don't overwhelm you by taking turns casting abilities. Taking the clone down is top priority if there is no corruption sphere created. If there is, then the sphere has to be destroyed first, then the clone, and after that you go and attack Shrowd. In a 4-group party, I suggest in the worst case scenario to have 1 Slayer on the clone, 2 Slayers on the corruption sphere, and 4th one on Shrowd. This way you can keep everything separate and safe. The clone is easier to deal with than Shrowd and does not take a lot of time to be destroyed. Pay attention that the clone's HP also increases based on the number of Slayers in the group. Shrowd has 2 phases, Aether Mode and Enrage. When he enters Aether Mode, you will see that his body will start to glow purple as well as his eyes. He will also have a galaxy skin on his body, which has sparkles and stars around it. You cannot mistake when he's in Aether Mode and when he's not. From what I have seen, after the first 2 minutes of the fight, he will spend most of the remaining time of the encounter constantly entering Aether Mode. I do not know if this is a bug or intentional. As mentioned earlier, the difference when he enters Aether Mode is that he gains the Shadow Clone and Corruption Sphere abilities. Shrowd's Enrage is a bit different than other behemoths. When he enrages, he will create the darkness space around each Slayer, which will greatly reduce your visibility. You will be able to see the names of your friendly players around you, so that you can go near them, and you will also be able to see the damage text on Shrowd, so I advise you to enable it constantly so that you can help you figure out your way around the phase. During this phase, Shrowd will gain more speed, and he will also do a charge followed by a glide, just like Shrike and Scribe do. His glide is boopable with any weapon that has the ability to boop. If you are a sword user, then you can use left and right click attack to boop him. If you boop him, this will cause his enrage phase to end immediately and the darkness effect to disappear. The problem during his enrage is finding him after he creates the space, but once you do that, you just need to pay more attention when evading his abilities. Shrowd can have the following body parts destroyed for loot: his head, his tail, both of his arms and both of his legs. After you first kill him, craft his armor. I find no point in crafting his weapons first, since you can have any other weapon made and farm it more easily to help you kill Rezakari than the ones from Shrowd. Also, if you have the exotic weapon, the hunger recipe, do not worry to craft the armor, since crafting all armor pieces will not use up materials needed to craft the hunger. Upgrading them, however, to maximum I cannot confirm yet, since I have not done this yet. This is everything regarding Shrowd and his abilities. If you think I have missed something and need to cover it more in depth, then please leave a comment down below to tell me. Remember to thumbs up the video if you liked it or it helped you in some way. Share it as you see fit, and lastly, follow me on Twitch and subscribe on YouTube for more Dauntless content.